Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So we are working now, we've got the fairy done. We're working on a Zora Lynx hat. And then the stuff to the right of it. Ended up with quite a straight line instead of diagonal because it's the side of a building. So yeah, just sort of made sense to stitch it like that. I really like the bright, vibrant colors here in the Zora Lynx. So we'll definitely hit 24% during this session. We're at 23.95, so that won't take very long at all. Okay. Oh, whoops, I was trying to pull two pieces out of the thread at once. That doesn't work too well. Yeah, even if you're stitching with multiple strands, it's best to remove them one at a time and then group them back together. Otherwise they can have weird tangles and such. So you pull the strand out and sort of let them untwist completely, and then you're less likely to get knots and bumps and things. Yeah, because I had a friend who was stitching with 3 strands, so she would just sort of split the strands in half and stitch them that way, but then yeah, she got where it wasn't quite smooth and such. So yeah, that's when I later read that you should remove each one on its own and then group them back together. There's also a recommendation, they said, if you have 2 strands, to put the ends opposite the way you pulled them out. That way they're less likely to knot. They can sort of help keep each other smooth. At least that's what I read, so I don't know, but I generally use loop starts. So for me, that's not really something I do. Use loop starts like 99% of the time, so. Okay, 38.50. There's only 2 of this, but unfortunately the other stitch is not in this area yet. It's in the next pass, so won't be getting another 0 yet. Those are always so fun. This is a really pretty, vibrant green. Blue is my favorite color, but I have to say there are a lot of greens I really like. I guess because they're close in the color spectrum. Oh, it was fascinating. I read once saying that grays may actually be colors that we just can't see, which I thought was just like, wow, mind-blowing. And it was also saying that like magenta isn't a real color or something. It's like a trick on your brain. So yeah, that was pretty fascinating. So there was a joke saying that everyone may perceive colors slightly differently because we have colorblind people and such. And so somebody said that means color is a pigment of your imagination. I know, that's so bad. I love the dreadful jokes. Yeah, so I think I was looking over the mock-up of this, and I think all the lighting is coming from the fairy, the way the shadows are in the picture, which is sort of how it is in the game, right? She does provide her own light source. So, in fact, there's one of the side quests you have to lead a guy around in the dark to dig up spots for you in the Majora's Mask, and he follows the light of your fairy. And that was a really frustrating one because you have to walk so slow for him to follow you. If you take one step too fast, he just turns around and walks off. And then he walks pretty fast, right, when he's walking away from you. So then you have to go over to him and then slowly walk back and bring him back over to the area you want. Oh, that was so frustrating. I'm trying to remember what you got in that quest. I know you killed a big ghost, but I can't remember why now. If you got a bottle or a piece of heart or something, I don't know. Or maybe it was a mask. I don't know. Yeah, it's been a while since I played that game, like at least 10 years. So, like I said, stitching this has made me kind of want to play it again. Plus, try to find some of the little Easter eggs and things that I didn't know existed till I watched the little Luigi Brothers series on it. Yeah, it's pretty cool that even though I played that game multiple times, there are still things in it I didn't know. They put so much detail. Yeah, or I liked in this one with the Mask of Truth, you could read dogs' thoughts when you picked them up. So that could help you win the dog races on the ranch. Because, yeah, some of the dogs would say, like, oh, my head hurts. I barked all night last night. And then, you know, one of them will say, like, oh, my forepaws feel lighter than usual today. And, yeah. Although it's still random. There's a few you can pick, and they'll do better than others, but there's no guarantee which one will win. It's still a bit of an element of chance, but it's your chances are greatly improved when you have the Mask of Truth. Yeah. Yeah, it was funny because I would go in the middle of the ranch or the doggy racing track and pick up dogs, and every time I found one I wasn't going to use, I threw him over the fence to keep him separate from the other dogs. Until I was left with just a few. And then, yeah, if your dog comes in first place, you win a piece of heart. And then if he comes in, oh, and I think you win triple your bet because you have to make a bet. And if you come in second, you win like double. And if you finish third to fifth, you get your money back. So it often takes a few tries. But yeah, if you do it without the Mask of Truth, then you're just randomly guessing. And yeah, sometimes you come in dead last. I had that a few times before I discovered the Eye of Truth mask. So yeah, I didn't find it as useful in the Ocarina of Time. You could talk to the gossip stones with it. Sometimes they give you a little bit of useful information, but mostly wasn't really. Or it was generally stuff you'd already figured out. So think more, there's 2 there, but I think, yeah, more of this color will be elsewhere in the pattern. So again, no 0. So we got the 2 zeros for yellows from the fairy's body, but I think we're not going to get any more zeros for a while. We shall see. That's usually how it happens. It isn't until you get to the very final pass across the pattern that you start to get zeros. Okay, 37.68. I still hold my needles in my mouth, and I know I shouldn't. Perfect. Didn't want to have to start a brand new piece for just one stitch. Sometimes that's unavoidable, but it's nice when you have leftover bit. Yeah, seeing about colors, like they're seeing other animals can see way more. It was on used to watch the show Newton's Apple when I was a kid, which was a little half-hour science show that I think was like on PBS or something like that. But yeah, they did a demonstration saying how very little of the light spectrum we can actually see. And so they placed this this thing across a piano. They said, imagine this is the light spectrum, all the 88 keys. And they said, so how much do you think we can see? And the guy's like, oh, well, you know, probably a good chunk in the middle. They said, nope, we can see the equivalent of 1 key. It's like, wow, really? It was wild. I mean, you know about ultraviolet light and stuff and, you know, UV rays that we can't see, but I had no idea that it was that much. They can only measure it with, you know, instrumentation and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Makes you wonder how much we're missing out on. Yeah, and saying about how different people see colors differently, because yeah, for me, I've looked at between the regular and the max color for Heaven and Earth designs, and I really don't see much of a difference. Like, there is a difference, but not enough. But my husband says he can see it much more distinctly, which is weird because he is colorblind in some areas. So go figure, right? Like, he has trouble telling blues and purples apart, and oranges and purples sometimes too, oranges and reds. And but for some reason, yeah, he said he can see a distinct difference with the max color, whereas I had sometimes people had the 2 mock-ups side by side and I couldn't tell which was which till I read the captions. So go figure. But then I was like, I had yarn that was very, you know, pastel color, and my husband couldn't tell the purple and the blue one apart. So, you know, go figure. Apparently there's a very rare condition where some people can't see color at all, but apparently it affects the rest of their vision too. So they'll see things in shades of gray, but usually they said that it comes with a severe vision impairment. So yeah, I didn't know that was possible though. Ooh, dear me. Oh. Yeah, supposedly I read too that if you see colors better, your night vision isn't as good. And I know mine is pretty lousy. Yeah. I avoid driving at night as much as possible because I do not have the best night vision. Plus I got astigmatism, so the lights have the streaks coming off them, which is even more distracting. Yeah. When I was a kid, my mom always tried to avoid driving at night. So like if we were with friends where, you know, one parent would give us a ride to, you know, the movie theater and then one would give us a ride home, she always wanted to be the one giving us a ride there during the day, not to be the one to pick us up at night. And I remember I used to think, well, what's the big difference? But then once I started driving myself, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah, it was funny. I remember when my husband and I were engaged, we had to take this marriage prep course. It was a requirement before we could get married in the church. And so they had, you know, things that you should, you know, discuss before you get married. And they had things that, you know, you might not think to discuss before you get married. And one of them was like, well, who drives? Because, you know, some people are very attached to driving. And if both people in the relationship want to be the one driving, that can cause friction. And I was like, well, that's not a problem. At the time, I didn't have my license yet. I was late to get my driver's license, but also I like the freedom of being able to drive, but I don't like driving. It's very anxiety inducing. So yeah, if someone else wants to drive, that is totally fine by me. And my husband likes driving, so yeah. Yet another way we are a good match. Yeah, he actually taught me how to drive. So. And then he's the one teaching our son as well. So. He's a super patient person, so he makes a good teacher. It takes a lot to get him riled. Yeah, it's quite funny because I always say he almost never gets mad, so when he does get mad, it's kind of surprising. And when we were first married, we were living in an apartment, and we had assigned parking spaces, and the person in the space next to us he had a big boat of a car, you know, big station wagon, and he'd just park it willy-nilly, you know, hanging into our space and whatever. He didn't care, right? And we had a smaller car, so we could maneuver, but I mean, there were times I had to climb over the gear shift and get out of the, you know, driver's seat, or I had to get out of the car before he pulled into the driving space because there's just no room the way the guy was hanging over into our space. And, you know, my husband was very patient, just, you know, left a note once in a while saying, you know, could you please park between the lines because it's really hard to get into our space, you know. And they didn't care. They just kept whatever. So one time we finally beat them home. Their space was empty. My husband says, oh, perfect. And so he gets out and he parks exactly on the line, like in the middle of the line. So there's like, you know, a couple millimeters of paint still showing on their side of the line. He like backed up and went in, you know, a couple of times to get it exactly on the line. The guy can't complain because we're not in his space, you know. And after that, they never, ever parked drifting over into our space again. I said, yeah, my husband is the most patient person ever, but if you tick him off, he will be the king of petty. So, that's like I said, we tried to be nice about it. Said, you know, like, you know, we weren't jerks about it. We just said, you know, if you could try to respect that, you know, other people need to park here too. Half of our space doesn't belong to you, but yeah, so. Yeah, it's funny. Oh, goodness. My thread got a little tangled in here. Not sure how that happened. Maybe I put it back in the envelope or something. Okay, I'll have to just carefully pull this apart here. Okay, yes, I see. This was one that had used to be wound on a bobbin, and I think when I unwound it, the smaller pieces sort of tangled up with the bigger pieces, so that's okay. All right, you can see we're actually going to use a fair amount of this color, so I think I'm going to put this in my working tray. It's like an electric blue, very, very vibrant and bright. Yeah, I was a child of the 80s, so I remember fluorescent like everything. We had clothes this color. Oh my gosh. Okay, 792. Yeah, there was a picture somebody had of a bunch of old 80s windbreakers, the, fluorescent eye searing, you could use them as safety vests. And it said, yeah, nobody fought against the wind harder than our generation. Oh dear. It's funny how fashion things come around. Like I said, bell bottoms were in the 70s and then they came back in the 90s, so. And then it went the way opposite direction in with skinny jeans. And then it's starting to get away from that again. Yeah, skinny jeans weren't my thing. I don't like it to feel too tight. Not comfortable for me. I like a slightly more relaxed fit. Well, at home I wear yoga pants like all the time. They're so comfortable. Yeah, the older I get, the less I am willing to sacrifice comfort for style. I definitely liked the style of the long tops over leggings because those are so comfy. Yeah, and that was another thing. Leggings were big in the 80s, and then they went away and made a comeback. Oh, look at that. End coming up. There we go. So yeah, this is one side of the building here on the right-hand side, and then there's the other side, which is a different color, but mostly one color, so that's gonna zip right along. Yeah, I'm always surprised how fast I go through thread when it's a big block of the same color. It eats up your floss real fast. These super bright colors I'm gonna draw along the back because I don't want the ends coming up between stitches. Especially the bright colors, I find they leave fuzzies behind that can be really hard to remove, and they're really visible. It's really irritating. Okay, so I've got, just gonna check other colors. That's fairly long. As is that. Okay, actually, let's skip over here. I'm gonna use this thread to park and carry. Actually, I may go back over to the right here and fill in some stuff above. Yeah, let's see. Let's see how long this one is. Okay, I'm gonna split up this block here of this, I don't know what you call double-headed arrow color here. Yeah. Well, it's quite a large area, so it's going to use more than one thread anyway, so. Okay, so did those two, and then I'm going to do this bit along here. There, so we can make use of both of the part threads. Not waste any. It was getting quite twisty, so just untwist it. Next time I use it, I'll probably let the needle hang once it goes to the wrong side of the fabric. Dangle to untangle, as some people say. Okay, do a bunch in a row. So yeah, I like to switch back and forth. Breaks up the monotony of the bigger sections. Oh yeah, there we are, past 24%. Passed it a ways back and I didn't notice. Yeah, so I should say probably hit 30% by the end of this month, I would think. I was saying 25, but I mean, I am definitely going to hit that, maybe even today. So well, I always like when I get further ahead than I expected. That's always fun. Oh, good. Didn't think this would be enough to finish crossing these all, but it was. Yeah, so I think once I've gotten to the bottom here, I'm going to move my frame one more time. The rest of this design fits in the frame, but I don't like holding my upper arm too far above. I like to be able to rest my elbow. Otherwise, my arm gets tired and my back gets kind of sore. Okay, 333. Yeah, it's funny, I was saying in previous videos how I get the colors memorized. Yeah, the other day, piece of thread must have been stuck to my clothes and got tracked somewhere else in the house, and I found it and I picked it up. I said, I think this is 820. Walk over to my tray and yep, that's it. My husband's like, how could you tell? I'm like, you work with them enough. You eventually can. So I've seen in a lot of the groups I'm on in Facebook, a lot of people saying they'll do no new starts in 2023, and then some other people who had to do a new start because it was 2023. So some people, their greatest joy is in starting, not necessarily finishing. Yeah. I do like a new start, but I really like to be able to finish things, so that's why I try not to have too many on the go at once. So yeah, while I love the process, that's my favorite part, I do love having a finished product to hang on my wall. That's probably why I haven't done any of the super, super high counts, like the million ones, because yeah, in the amount of time to do that, I could have 3 or 4 finished ones of a smaller size, and I'd rather that, so I don't want to get bored working on the same picture for too long. But kudos to people who can. Okay. Let's park that there for a bit. Let's see if I can find some detail work over here. Break up that monotony. See, I unthreaded that, yeah, because I knew it was going to be a while till I got to it. Oh, I think I have the correct one parked here. I just forgot to mark it. All right, let me just check. Yeah, I did. I remember working with that color. I just, yeah, forgot to mark that it was parked. Do that as soon as I finish tying this off so I don't forget. Okay, go back over to this one again. Okay, about 2 stitches shy of that grid line there. go here. Okay, so this is not a very long piece, so I think I'm just going to do up to there so I can do all the stitches below it. Yeah, without closing anything in. Okay, so that's 4 past this grid line here. Yeah, plus I guesstimated that was just the right amount of thread left, which pretty much is, so I can get pretty good at estimating after a while. Yeah, I think we'll pass 200 stitches soon because there was a fair amount of bigger blocks, so it went faster. Plus, I didn't start at 0 when I started this session. I had some done, so. Wow, I was stitching before we had better light. I was trying to do my filming when I have really good natural light. Gives for the best clear picture, I find, without as many shadows and such. Okay, so let's add, yeah, that color there, 797. I think I have some shorter bits. Yeah, perfect. As you can see, there is a whack ton of that color in the next area. It's a shadowy side of a building, so yeah, not a lot of detail there. Oh, how did that get like that? Huh, it got loose. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. All right, first park this. And yeah, I don't know how that got that way, but that's okay. It's fixable. Just find a scrap piece of thread here. Yeah, sometimes that happens. You end up with a loop you didn't realize and it didn't pull taut, and then leaves this kind of sloppy looking bit, but that's okay because this is how I fix it. So then I can pull this back to the back like that, and then just tie this off like you were ending a normal stitch, and then look at that, nice and neat again. You didn't have to rip it out. Yeah, Discovered that a couple years ago. It's been one of my favorite little tricks. Because nobody likes having to rip stuff out, right? Especially when you're working on higher counts, it's harder to do, and you run the risk of cutting your fabric as well, which you don't want to do, obviously. Speaking of loops, got a knot on the back here. Let's see if we can pull it free. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Okay, so I filled all that in because I wanted to be able to do these stitches, and then I can do the ones below them, and I didn't close anything in. So yeah, I don't quite do the snake method like Needle Ninja, but I mean, kind of works out back and forth sometimes, like a pendulum. Untwisting those threads a bit. Okay, so I did all that because I wanted to be able to go back to this color. There we go. That's why I kind of split that color up, because I had two threads, so they kind of meet in the middle, come from each side. We'll see if this piece is enough to do all of these or not. Might be, provided we don't get any knots. Knock on wood. Hopefully I didn't jinx myself by saying that. Oh, look at that, we're at 24.24%. Yeah, so 25% will be 12,000 stitches even. Yeah, we're at 11,636. So if I don't get it today, I should get it tomorrow for sure. Yeah, and there's fair blocks of color here too, so most of the detail work in this area is done now. So this is gonna fly by. Oh, perfect. Just enough. Oh, come on, you. Oh. Yeah, it looks like I will be able to end off a few threads too. Ooh. Oh, look. Actually, I will get a 0 today. Woohoo! Excellent. Yeah, I said it would be a while, but I guess not. Sweet. Okay, then these last 5. Yeah, so I got 2 other 0s, but they weren't on camera, so now you guys will see this one on camera. I can pull that envelope and put it back in my master set because we are done. Woohoo, 0. Oh, whoops. Forgot that was in move mode and not markup. Okay, 37.52. All right, so I think we'll do this bit here, and then I'm going to take a break because I can feel that I need to get up and stretch. Been sitting for too long, so just make sure I remember to mark that. It's done. Okay, so as usual, thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here again another time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.